So welcome back to the dumbest bill in America. We have with us Delegate Brian Chisholm. Welcome back, Brian.
Glad to be here.
And we have a really interesting dumbest bill in Maryland. Actually, this is in the city of Baltimore. So the city council in Baltimore has a gentleman who is a city councilman. He serves there. His name is Paris Gray. He put forth a piece of legislation in the city of Baltimore, Brian, that says that men and men's room should have menstrual products in them, men's bathrooms, all throughout the city of Baltimore. So in other words, every single city building should have menstrual products in the men's room as well. So we're calling this particular dumbest bill, putting men into menstrual. Why? Well, because it just doesn't make any sense to me. Brian, your thoughts?
I heard the mayor give a speech not too long ago. He goes, well, Baltimore is going to lead, and I've always heard if it bleeds, it leads. So I guess we've accomplished that in Baltimore City.
So why would we look? So this guy, Paris Gray, he's a city councilman again in the city of Baltimore. And again, we're calling this dumbest bill in America, putting men into menstrual. Baltimore City has the highest electricity prices, some of the highest electricity prices in the country, highest real estate taxes in the state of Maryland, some of the highest crime in the state without question, right? No one learning in the public schools. In some of their schools, there's no one that's proficient in math or reading. But Paris Gray, the city councilman in Baltimore, Brian, he wants to put menstrual products in men's room. I mean, and he calls it, get this, podcast listeners, menstrual equity.
Yeah, well, I can't tell you how many times I've been sitting around with my buddies drinking a beer, eating some wings, and they said, yeah, we just wish we had some tampons in the bathroom.
That's right. You know what we need? We need menstrual equity because, men menstruate too. No, they don't. Look, guys, this is just ridiculous. It shows you the Democrat Party has lost its mind. And they've lost all sense of priorities, right? And Brian and I will be the first to tell everybody, yeah, there are plenty of people that are adults who are trans and believe that's what they are. They get to live their lives out any way they want to, right? But honestly, folks, this is going too far. You're wasting taxpayer dollars and putting menstrual products in men's room. It just doesn't make any sense in a city that basically gets the rest of the state to pay for all of its stuff. Because if you live in a county that has, a pretty affluent population or even a middle-class population, a lot of the money that you send to Annapolis is being redistributed to the city of Baltimore, and they're using it for this nonsense.
I think there's something even seedier here, Mark, and I'm serious about this. I think this is a diversionary tactic because what we're seeing, and maybe it's just a microcosm of what we see in Annapolis, we do not have women wanting to be men. We have men wanting to be women. So they're going to throw this out there and say, well, look, there's a lot of men that are out there that claim they have a menstrual cycle. That's not ever what's really happening. We have men pretending to be women, so they're either pedophiles or crazy half the time, wanting to be in women's locker room. That's all this is.
And women's sports too. I mean, the Democrats are still, to this day, Governor Moore and the entire Democrat legislature in Annapolis are supporting putting men in women's sports and having men take away positions from women in sports, in public schools and colleges and so forth. We just had this lady in University of Maryland College Park.
Yep.
She was in a fencing competition, an NCAA fencing competition. And you know who her opponent was in the fencing? Fencing is when you've got the sword and you fence and you fight and all that stuff. Her opponent was a dude.
Yep.
A dude who is obviously pretending he was a woman, or maybe he believes he's a woman. And she basically took a knee and said, I'm not going to fight against this guy. He's like twice my size, twice my weight, 3 times stronger than me. I don't want to get hurt.
And what's the left do automatically? It's just innate in them. We'll make them the victim, right? And that's what they're saying. The victims here are the poor men in the bathroom that are bleeding out and can't find a tampon. But that's the same thing they do. They do this all the time with this straw man argument, with this false narrative that these people are victims. They're not victims.
So, and this is why we have a problem, the Republican Party, with this idea of this equity argument, right? I mean, equity, what does that mean? Menstrual equity. I mean, we should ask Paris Gray, of course, the city councilman of Baltimore, who's decided that this, out of all of the problems the city of Baltimore has, look, I know people in the city of Baltimore, Brian, that they get water bills that are $1,000 or $2,000 a month because the city, and of course they haven't used that much water, not even close to it, because the city of Baltimore can't even figure out how to meter the water that you use. Now they've made improvements, to be fair, but this is a very real issue. And they're not focusing on the issues at hand. They're creating new drama for no reason.
They're creating more victims. They're creating more drama. And let's be honest, and you can look this up, equity comes from it's a communist term.
Of course.
And that's what we're really turning to now, where, okay, we're going to get you hooked on free tampons and then work backwards from there. And then we're going to force you to stay here because you can't afford to sell your house because you owe for a $4,000 water bill because the county or the city can't put on a correct water meter.
Yeah. So we would like to say to Paris Gray, the city councilman in Baltimore, you might want to focus on the high electricity bills that are existing in the city of Baltimore and throughout the state. Maybe fix that problem. How about the unsustainable real estate taxes in the city of Baltimore where people can't even afford to pay no one wants to invest in Baltimore. And why? Because the property taxes are too high. And then how about the crime in Baltimore? How about working on that? How about the fact that no one is learning in many of your schools? And how about all of these really critical, important issues that could make your city so much better instead of menstrual equity? Brian, last thoughts.
Diversionary tactic. And you look, I give him credit. You got all of these problems, all of these things that are exploding in Baltimore City. How do we take the headline? We put Tampon Tim back on the front page on the Baltimore Sun by saying, we're going to give out free tampons in the men's bathroom.
And that's the dumbest bill in America, putting men into menstrual into all city men's rooms in the city of Baltimore by Paris Gray. And that's the dumbest bill in America. Thank you for joining us. See you next time. Thank you, Brian.